God's character is being distorted by people who claim that He lied when He said in Genesis 2:17, "You must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for on the day you eat from it, you will certainly die." Adam and Eve ate and they didn't die. So is God a liar? This video will unpack how God didn't lie and how their accusations take the Bible out of context. Let's get started. Since God's character is in question, let's take a look at the Bible and see what it says about God and lying. In Hebrews chapter 6, verse 18, it tells us that it is impossible for God to lie. Lying comes from an impure nature. God is holy. He can't do what is unholy. Then also in Numbers chapter 23, verse 19, it tells us that God is not a man and He might lie. Man lies because of a sinful nature. And because God has a holy nature, He cannot do sinful things. And if God would lie, He would be man. So understanding that God is holy and that God is not like man, let's look at what happened in Genesis chapter 2, verse 17. When we look at the original language, Hebrew, we find a couple of interesting things. First, based on the grammatical structure, there is no support for an immediate physical death seen in the original language. Those arguing that God lied points to the wording the or that. When the original Hebrew, those two words, the and that, were not there. They were added later to smooth out the English translation. The literal translation from Hebrew of "you will certainly die" is "dying, you will die." So when we look at that, "dying, you will die," it shows a double expression of the word death. Dying and die. The repeating of words in Hebrew shows emphasis on the concept, on the meaning of the words that are being used. The Hebrew reveals the certainty of death and the extremity of death. This death is certain. You eat, you die. This death is extreme. This death will affect your entire being, your mind, your soul, and your body. And on that day, Adam and Eve experienced two deaths. First, there was an immediate spiritual death. They were separated from God. The relationship with God was broken. Fear gripped them and they ran and hid. Their eyes were open and they saw their nakedness. See, before their sin, in Genesis 2:25, they weren't ashamed. After their sin, Genesis 3:7, their eyes were open and they were ashamed. Second, there was an eventual physical death. Adam and Eve did not die immediately, but their bodies began to decay. And God told them that they will return back to the ground where they came from. Look at Genesis chapter 3, verse 19. It reads, "You will eat bread by the sweat of your brow until you return to the ground, since you were taken from it. For you are dust, and you will return to dust." Adam lived for 930 years, and then he died. The result of their sin wasn't an immediate physical death, but it was an eventual physical death. To avoid taking the meaning of day out of context, we need to look back at the Hebrew again. And there's a couple of ways that you can interpret the word day. It can be translated as a period of time, such as 24 hours, a week, 1,000 years. Or like here, it could be translated to mean a state of being. When they ate, their minds were ruined. When they ate, their bodies were ruined. When they ate, their souls were ruined. So they were in a state of being ruined because of the choice to eat. So on that day, on the day they ate, they died, spiritually and physically. God is not a liar. I invite you to watch this video right here next, where I answer the question, why does evil exist? Thanks, everybody.